to the issue of taking sides, and I thought you said that in this Dionysian frenzy, the subject-object relationship disappears, and everyone is sort of part of the same community, and it's a mob that almost has one mentality rather than a bunch of different ones. I think we really saw that in the video in the sense that at some point the director is almost wildly sort of switching sides from one side to the next. It's almost that you're in the heads of both the rioters and then you're in the policemen's heads, and you see, the rioters are kicking someone and the police are kicking someone back. I wasn't sure if there was a side being taken, because in the end it seems like the rioters are the ones that sort of end up on top. But at the same time, just sort of viscerally, I got the sense that there's a lot going on, and it's not quite as black and white or clear cut as we might have seen in the beginning, where there was tension-filled moment about to go at each other.
I think as Bailey kind of points out, it starts out there's the group of the rioters, there's the line of the actual police officers, but then as they start to clash, it becomes more of a one-on-one as they fight each other. It becomes kind of a sort of dance, and that's why I like they're on the actual dance floor in the club, and the smoke and the lights and everything. It's you're just hanging out in the club as they are literally clipping each other, I guess.
Bitter irony.
Yeah.
So these two entities aren't diametrically opposed, but can we only actualize the Dionysian through an Apollonian lens, or can it be structured for its own sake?
How do you mean? I'm not sure.
Because Dr. Bailey said the Dionysian, or the Apollonian only recognizes the Dionysian through the process of repressing it. So after it has been actualized and the Apollonian attempts to depress or restrict or add structure, or even, I think he uses the word value or substance.
Right, and that's, okay, in that instance, that's one of those points where in the conversation I had with him, at least in terms of, and of course Nietzsche is not looking at this video, but in terms of the way I see Nietzsche structuring this, it's not an Apollonian repression of the Dionysian. Instead, I would see it in Nietzsche's framework, again, as a rescue from that. It appears, like I said, it appears that the Dionysian overwhelms the Apollonian. The Apollonian's ultimately strong. Right? The Apollonian's ultimately going to return us to this world of forms. You can't persist in that ecstatic state, whether it's an ecstasy of violence or an ecstasy of rapture. That's a kind of foretaste of a kind of timelessness. Those moments themselves are timeless. They don't react according to time.
But not sustainable.
But not sustainable. So the Apollonian, then when it reasserts itself, has to channel those energies. Again, but those channels or those energies have been released. So I see it as a more cooperative kind of relationship. Because again, they're both involved in a kind of aesthetic experience. Now, if you want to come back and talk about Nietzsche and sort of the Socratic interrogation and reason, that Nietzsche would see as a kind of repression of full humanity. Right? Because ultimately for Nietzsche, he sees this as a response to what he calls the fundamentally pessimistic view of the world of the Greeks. Right? The world of the Greeks is one in which life is what we have. It's not a world of life after death. It's not a world of some future promise. And it's fleeting. It doesn't last. And how do you deal with that truth? You deal with that truth by creating beauty. Beauty is the thing that protects you from the awful shortness, brevity of life. So that's where they would interact according to Nietzsche.